All right. This part of the thing yesterday was not taped. We just taped the first part, but we're going to tape you guys today in this discussion.
Why?
Because Chief Balo wants me to.
Well, it's a little more beyond that.
That was about 467, Chief.
Yeah, recording now?
Yeah.
We are trying to create a training library so that, you guys brought in a call earlier. So now you can go back and see the videos that everybody watched before. And 102 is out right now, so they can come back and see that. And so those things are going to be recorded.
And the discussion post these videos is important too, because the discussion is really bringing it down to our department level, and what we're going to do here, what we prefer here, things like that, exceptions to our department, and it goes for all the training, not just for today. So what we're going to do first is literally talk about what we should have in our narrative. All right. The folks that left on a run earlier, Mr. Halloran went over different preferences of writing reports, and it basically comes down to overall the paragraph method of writing a narrative is preferred. There were some, and I know everybody has a little different way of doing it. Some people use charts, some people use SOAP, which is the subjective objective assessment and procedures thing. Some people use paragraph, but with the paragraph form you can bring the report all in together a little bit more cohesively. And I mentioned this to the group yesterday, the folks that tend to do mnemonics, if you really go thoroughly through the mnemonic, that's great, but one thing we do see, Dr. Rohn and I see every once in a while, is the mnemonics tend to be very, very minimal. And so we don't get a good idea of what's going on with the report. So our preference is to have the department do paragraph format. So with that, we want to kind of create a report. Yes, all the objective, the subjective areas within the report tell us the specifics of what we did. We started an IV. We put a 12 lead on this patient. We gave him epinephrine. But it doesn't tell us the whys and what happens, kind of thing. So that's what we would like to see in the report. And I started this exercise yesterday with the group. When you're thinking of your report, what's the first thing that we would like that should be to start the narrative off? And looking at it just chronologically, what's the first thing?
Resident, non-resident.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Now, it's a good point. Currently, we do resident, non-resident. We are looking that our reporting system should.
First thing I type.
No, it's true, because we've ingrained that in folks because our old system required that, because it wouldn't pick up that little check mark. We are hoping with the newest upgrade that we got, that is going to pick up, and we may not have to do that anymore. So beyond the resident, non-resident, all right, now we get to actual patient. What do we want to include in that first part?
Upon arrival, what you had, what you found, what you
Okay, so that's the first thing that came up yesterday, but then someone else said, what about prior to arrival? What about the dispatch, the true dispatch message?
I usually start off with dispatch, whatever, mutuated with engine 6 on difficulty breathing.
All right, so why would that be good to include?
Because we don't always get dispatched on what we get to.
Exactly. Okay, I'm going to go back to a run that Mr. Davis and I had.
Mike, isn't that up in the upper part of the?
It is, but it is drop downs, but it's not always exactly what you get dispatched on. Okay. Yes, ill person is there. All right, but let's say it was you're dispatched to the river to someone swimming in the river. That's not in your drop down.
Oh, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to the one that I was going to mention with Ron and I years ago. We got dispatched on an ill person, which is to the hotel that is now the Alpine House. All right. We just sort of wandered in, ill person, no problem, took the stuff upstairs. What did we find, Ron?
Nobody was in a hurry.
Nobody was in a hurry.
Employees were not in a hurry.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh yeah, this
room,
way.
room 353 or whatever. What did we find?
Farthest corner, top floor. This little woman of all 4'11" and 90 pounds is doing CPR, and this big lady.
So we found a cardiac arrest.
All of them were employees.
So yeah, we got dispatched on an ill person.
44.
That's not what we found. So
So
yeah,
backed up and left, because
dispatch
that's what they called
message.
for.
So dispatched on an ill person upon arrival, found person in cardiac arrest. So they're starting to wrap some stuff in, you know. So message and then found. Okay, so what's next? What next? This would be the class
I
participation.
described.
Usually, no, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Describe the patient you found.
Yeah,
Go
so-
down above patient.
Doorway assessment. I like that. Doorway assessment. So, I like that. Found the patient lying on the floor in the kitchen, or sitting on the couch in extreme difficulty breathing, something like that.
Then I would usually put patient complained of, what their chief
Okay,
complaint,
their
what their
chief complaint.
statement, their initial
Yeah.
statement to me was.
And, you know, yeah, so, and then, so we actually make patient contact, and so what's their, you know, I'm gonna just use my abbreviation, complaining of, all right, or chief complaint. So patient describes difficulty breathing upon walking, upon exertion, or found the patient face down on the front lawn, you know. And the other thing that this does, it also starts you thinking about what could possibly be the things I'm there to treat. You know, patient, you know, summertime face down on the front lawn, you're automatically thinking about some different things. Full cardiac arrest, if it gets stung by bees or anaphylaxis. It helps us bring it together, and then how we treat the patient. So after their chief complaint, what else? Zach, you tend to write paragraph form. What would you put next? You make fun
I
of Brad
structure
Dunn,
things a
but you
little
write
bit
very
differently,
similar report.
Mike, stop picking on my young board.
You do write similar reports. You write a very good report. So you write paragraph.
Being recorded, dude.
So,
That's what I just.
Sorry, Zach.
I started off a little bit differently, but and how the initial portion of it flows. But once I get the complaint of, usually somewhere either right before or right after the complaint, I'll get into the facts or circumstances that led up to that.
Right.
So the brief history.
Yeah, the how we got there.
Yeah, the immediate history.
Okay. The history of the incident, or how we got there, and then after we have that there, tying it in, what's next?
Treatment.
What we do. Now, a lot of what we do is the treatment that's listed above, all right? But if there's an oddity to that, you know, like you said, you know, let's say 12 lead attempted, patient 2 diaphoretic, things like that. That's probably the next stuff that has to be in there. All right, why didn't we get the 12 lead? Well, we tried 2 diaphoretic. All right, and while I'm at this, one of the things that we're also going to go over in a little bit what the lieutenants are looking for and what we look for in QA. One of the things that we have gotten a little lax on, and we don't want to be lax on it anymore, is those downloads. All right, if you put the monitor on someone, it needs to be downloaded. That includes six leads. Okay, if it goes on someone, it needs to be downloaded. And I'm going to contact LifePack or Medtronic or whatever it's called, and get it to where our vitals are coming back over again. All right, that was somehow a glitch that we've never really had it corrected, and I'm gonna get those to go back. But that is part of patient care, so it needs to be documented in the thing. So if the lieutenants see that you clicked on monitor in the morning and they don't see the EKG download, it is going to be their responsibility to get you to download that before you leave. If there is an issue with the download, there's a lot of people on the department on each shift now that know how to correct those issues with Bluetooth and stuff. Just put it out there, hey, couldn't get it downloaded, see if someone can help you. If not, give me a call. or let me know, so when I'm coming in, we usually can keep about 30 of those on the monitor before they get kicked off. If I'm here the next morning, I'll go in there and try to find it. It's very important that we get those downloads in. So I'm just gonna put treatment. And then anything after that, you know, if there are any changes during transport, delay in transport. I loved his example of it took 30 minutes to get this lady down the icy stairs. Those things need to be put in there because they really tell us what's going on. All right. Is it? Yes.
Mike,
Ron?
you also want, if we're delayed,
Absolutely.
in a holding pattern, so to speak, along the wall of Riverside.
Yeah. No,
Or-
please. You know, you get there. That is truly part, because you haven't really had a chance to transfer care yet. You know, if you're you know, standing in the hall for 32 minutes before you get a chance to transfer your care, yes, that patient's still yours.
Oh, agreed.
Documented in there. Plus, that also gives me the idea when I'm reading that narrative to go, well, you know, you might have got busy and forgot to tell me. So I see that 2 days later as I'm doing my portion of the QA and go, oh, this needs to be followed up on. Generally, I hear about it. Or, you know, if there's a problem with the extended care facility, you know, we got there and we got no report from anybody, finally found the patient in room, whatever, and there was a 5-minute delay of figuring out what's going on. Put that in the narrative. You know, that's part of your patient care. It's part of the delay of getting to the patient's side. But again, write it factually and don't put, you know, I guess opinions in there. You know, just state to it. You know, this is what happened, because it helps us all around. So, all right. So, the other thing that some folks have gotten in the habit too, and I think it helps kind of end that narrative part, is to add that you did make contact with. Not only did you get the nurse's signature, but a lot of folks are starting to write, you know, upon arrival at the hospital, gave report to and transferred care to Nurse Amy in room 22, all right, or in room 22. It just kind of finalizes that we transferred care. Okay. So does that all make sense? Yes, Doug.
Mike, can you expand on patient assessment a little bit? What do you expect? What do we see? I mean, I see it on the stroke scale a lot. When was the patient last normal, and then what are the details of the Cincinnati scale? Sometimes it just says abnormal.
Well,
And it's also listed on objectives, so I'm trying to figure out what we as a group expect to see in that
as
assessment.
if I'm reading it and someone just writes abnormal, I'd like to know what was abnormal. You know,
That's what I'm saying. What do you
abnormal,
expect to
as
see?
Mike put it in his videos, abnormal is the conclusion. It's not the circumstance of what we found. It's like writing the person was intoxicated. We're not allowed to write that. That's a conclusion that we don't really know. But we do know that the patient smelled of alcohol, that the patient was stumbling as he walked out of his car to my medic, things like that. So we're writing what we observe. And sometimes the checkoff things just don't put those in. They're just not there. So that's what we add to the narrative. I know it's gonna, you know, for the folks that have to change some of the things they do, it's more work. But overall, it's better. Unfortunately, I'm gonna use myself, I unfortunately have had, I call it unfortunate, but I've had to be on the stand 3 times in my career. Okay? And 1 was for a fire run, 2 were for EMS runs. And it's a very uncomfortable thing to be when all of a sudden it's 6 years down the line and they're bringing up a report you wrote. You can't remember it. You know, you're going with what you wrote and you're hoping you wrote it well. One of the occurrences was on a report I didn't write, but the person was retired now and I happened to be on the run when we were going with his report. And that was really uncomfortable. But all I could say was I didn't write it and I kind of remember this, but you know, so you're gonna, it's kind of there for jogging your memory. It's also for your memory then, but it's for the other readers. We want to make it all in all better for the department.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So one of the big reasons why you want us to get away from chart method is just for the chronological? order?
Well, I like the way he put it was chronological, but at least what I've observed, when folks use chart, they get really minimal and they don't put anything there. You know, assessment completed, you know, next to it. History as above. And it gets really, it doesn't tell us anything. Now, sometimes someone uses
Are you saying we can't do the chart anymore?
some
So just to be clear, I just want to know.
They,
Is that what you're saying?
I would like to say that, but I'm gonna look to the back of the
Well,
room for
what
that.
do you think, Dave?
One of the things,
I-
you,
I just-
your opinion
you
on it.
missed it,
I
but
just-
one of the things he put up there
I'm
was.
going with, I'm gonna do whatever I'm told to do
No,
on
but
this
what
one.
do you think, though? You've been a medic, I mean, what do you think?
I know, you
Maybe
prefer you prefer the method.
It's just the method I use. It's not a preference. It's the method I was taught. It's the method I use. I just want to know whether or not I can continue to use it. If not, then I need to go some additional training and do some other things on how to write these reports.
Well, I mean, well, what would you recommend? You're teaching a first-year medic. Would you say, let's use the chart method because I've used it, and here's my experience?
My experience would say that I've been a medic for 21 years, and I was a basic for 4 years before that, and I wrote the chart method the entire time. So that's the only thing that I know, I guess, is what that's, you see what I'm saying, Doc? I don't know the other method, so
No, but
I'm not
that-
saying that it's good or bad. I was taught by a person that was in EMS for 25 years
He wasn't
before that,
here, so-
and that's what they taught me.
That's what I
Done
want.
deal. Let's go with paragraph.
Yeah, one of the things,
Yeah.
you missed it earlier, Willie, he talked specifically.
Chart method's gonna open you more.
Then I gotta get up.
He,
No, that's okay.
he talked specifically about the chart and soap methods.
Oh, yes, yeah, I
And,
like that.
and that's why I said, it was in the second video, the second 17 minutes.
Your
He
chart
talked
doesn't
specifically
care for
about
the
it.
chart.
He said it opens us up, it tends
Yeah,
to.
so what are we deciding here?
We're-
That's my question.
That's why I asked.
Right there, what we're talking about, paragraph.
We're gonna prefer the paragraph method.
But, no, wait a minute, just
Go
a
ahead.
second. I'm also medical director of Columbus State, and this is a big issue there in terms of the training of the medics, because some instructors say use chart, some say use paragraph, some say use something else, and the students are confused because they don't know what to do. And the so-called medical student history takes an hour. So you can't go through every single thing and write pages and pages and pages. I mean, that just isn't appropriate. So what, do we have to have a uniform plan for the department, or do we have to, or can we have two? Can you continue to use the chart and we see how it goes? As long as the information's there, I'm not sure I want to make you change 21 years of practice.
Well, it's okay if you do. Literally, the question was just